Hey there, vinyl community. Hey, off the cuff, I thought I'd make a quick video about a topic that I thought was interesting and have been kind of thinking about. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get like an idea for a video, and it kind of percolates in my head for a little while about what I want to say, but I never like define anything or write anything down about like what I want to say. I don't operate that way. I'm the same way when I used to do a little bit of public speaking in a former job, and I never really prepared other than to you have to know the topic that you're speaking about, but I never wanted to be too exact about what I was going to say, because I feel like it's much more natural to just kind of to have a conversation rather than a pre-planned, this is what I'm going to say verbatim. Anyway, but I want to talk a little bit about kind of like my evolution in listening to music, and kind of like where I kind of came from. Um, I was born in Detroit, suburbanite. Detroit suburbanite kid, grew up here. My friends were, the kind of kids that were listening to, all the bands that were popular at that time. Growing up, first band was Kiss, was my first, and Ace just passed away, and so we say, rest in peace, Space Ace, and we'll miss you. But anyway, and so I just kind of wanted. So when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, excuse me, I was I was listening to like the Stones, or the Cure. This was a big Cure album at the time. Iggy, of course, was really big for me. And this is probably one of my favorites. This is the way I bought the album. I still have my copy that I bought back in the day. They were really pushing it's a reissue, of course, and they were really pushing the produced by David Bowie aspect of the album there. And then this was like a big record, kind of getting into kind of independent music and garage and punk rock and stuff like that. And so that's kind of where my head was at. And then going to school, I went to Wayne State University, which is a school right in the city of Detroit, and enjoyed my time there very much. But I can remember walking into a specific record store one day. It was over on Gratiot Avenue. Record Time, I think, is the name of it. It's not there anymore. And they had a little wall of albums that you would go in for, and I saw this record, on the wall, and the cover kind of intrigued me, and my initial kind of reaction was, it's kind of very, how just not, I don't know, but something kind of, I was like, I wanted to take a chance. And at the time, I think this album was like $10, something like that. Not expensive, 10, $15. And I took a chance on it, and I got it home, and my initial reaction was a little bit mixed, like a mixed reaction to it. And the reason was, I've always had this aversion to prog, to the sounds of prog, this kind of, these kind of keyboard, long solos, complex musical structures, so I had a certain aversion when I remember when I first heard this, and I was a little like, but I gave it a really good chance, and eventually I not just liked this record, but really started to see that the complexities were not, they're not there just for the heck of it, and that the album is really taking you somewhere, and taking you into music, into the avant-garde area of music and classical, that I was a whole new world for me. And eventually, I became pretty kind of obsessed with this record and listened to it a lot. I had very little guideposts to guide me where to go to next after hearing this. And I was, really on my own. But it wasn't that much longer after hearing this that I discovered another record. And in these, I'm going to show 5 records, and these 5 kind of, for whatever reason, they've always kind of linked together. 2 of them are more recent purchases, as in, say, the last 3 years or so. So yeah, this kind of became an album that just would always be a part of my record collection. This is a record I'd never part with. That I just it's a important record to me, and it took me into the complexities of music in a way that I don't think another record, in a way that, if other, art rock, yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Genesis, could never guide me, but this did. And so then from there, was within probably a few months after discovering that, I remember walking into another record store. Store still happens to be around, called Street Corner Music, and on the wall was this beauty. I had never heard of Moondog in my life before, had no idea what to expect, but at the time I was always inclined to take chances, seeing a record on the wall, and I discovered a lot of really cool, one of my favorite bands, maybe my favorite band, Ubu. I just took a chance on and discovered Wire, another band that I knew nothing about, grabbed the record and bought it, and the rest is history. Ideal copy, and but yeah, this record was on the wall, and I was just drawn in by the sleeve. I was just kind of like, what is this? And I had no idea what to expect. As far as I was concerned, this could have been like some 70s, obscure. It's got that cool gray label. Beautiful copy. The sleeve's in probably like, you can see it's got a little bit of sleeve wear, but nothing too bad. The vinyl looked beautiful, and I got it home, and it's really avant-garde classical. And at the time, there was no resistance on my part. I listened to it with open ears, and it showed me a world of possibilities about classical music that I had never heard before. And people have tried to turn me on to classical music, and I like some of it. Mozart and some beautiful passages, and I can enjoy that. But it didn't bring me in the way this did, the way Moondog did. This the difference was that these weren't just pretty melodies. This was drawing me into an adventure, and it was asking me to flex some muscles and to strain some muscles that I otherwise wouldn't. And as a result of that, I really felt for this record. And again, it became kind of a hallmark of my collection. And I would play it for people, and they would either get it, or most of the time, not get it. And this kind of became another one of those that took me. The way I'm thinking of this is that each one of these albums took me a step further into what I thought was music, and what I thought music was capable of doing for us. So after discovering Moondog, same store, Street Corner Music, it was probably a few years later, another record was on the wall, and that was this record. And I had heard this record before. In fact, I had a friend who I went to Wayne State with, who was a music major, and he had told me about the name of this record. I had never heard it, but I remembered him mentioning that this was a, quote, important piece of music. So when I saw it on the wall, I kind of liked the minimalism of the artwork. You know, it's funny. It's minimal and yet complicated. You know, there's a lot of detail there if you look for it. And the music is kind of like that too. And this, again, took me, I think, the next step into what music could do and what I could expect out of music. And as a result of this, I discovered a lot of electronic music, and this was really kind of at the bedrock of that, of hearing electronic music beyond just dance music, that there was other things that music could do that were just as complicated or just as emotional as, Parubu or Sonic Youth or any of the other bands that I was kind of discovering, rock bands that I was discovering along the way, and that there was a parallel course that it wasn't just rock music, that there was a whole nother world out there that I could access, that was accessible to me. Just this, guy who, I'm no expert in avant-garde, classical music, and yet it was accessible to me and important to me. And this was opened a lot of doors, I would say, especially in electronic music. So those three albums for a long time were kind of at the bedrock of my forays into other albums that I wanted to discover, but I wanted to show those because I think those three are really important. Well, within the last, I'd say 3 years or so, maybe going on 4 years. I'll mention someone here in our little vinyl community, Stunty, Stunt Rock Confusion's Friday night live stream. I remember Stunty played one night this record right here. And so those three that I showed, Terry Riley and Steve Reich and Moondog, they showed me what music could be outside of the realms of what I, had thought of music as being a riff or a melody or anything. And I guess I was just really ready for kind of the next step into the kind of deconstruction of what I thought of as music. And maybe that's a good way to put it. And this showed me another step into that, of what sound could be and where sound could take you if you allowed it to. And this kind of does that. It breaks down even more of those barriers. The concept of, which I had read a lot about by then, by the time I discovered this, read a lot about, music concrete and where, what the ideas were behind it. And I encourage you to go and do some research and find out about, sound and the differences between sound and music, and breaking some of the barriers down as to what we, traditionally think of as music. I think it's an important step to make in just kind of being open to music around the world. Our definitions here in the United States, where I am, are limited and limiting, and by opening those doors, you open a world not just of music, but of ideas and thoughts as to what music can be, and I think that's important to do because I think it opens us about our thoughts about humanity and the humanity that we see around the world, that sometimes we might unintentionally limit ourselves and not see the humanity that's there. This is a wonderful record, and it's really one that again, changed a lot for me. And I saw the beauty in it, and the adventure in it. And maybe I was just ready for it. I actually think that I was probably ready for it sooner, but I didn't know of its existence. And this opened up even more doors for me. And it wasn't shortly thereafter hearing this that, in the same way, again on Stunty's live stream, that I discovered another album that I think really kind of took me, one step further into the idea of kind of music concrete and what that is and what it could be, and bringing in naturalistic sounds, whatever that's supposed to mean. But this is a pretty amazing record, and I'll leave you to do a little research on where the sounds that came from that are on this. But this sleeve is somehow very indicative of the music that's here. And I encourage you, if you're ready for a musical adventure, that you look into this. There is a reissue. In fact, that's when Stunty played this on his live stream. He was kind of letting everybody know that there had been this reissue that I guess comes with a pretty nice booklet. I remember the snippet that he played and the night that he played it. It so intrigued me that I knew instantly. I listened to it a little more online too, and I knew that I had to have the original, because I had the feeling that this was going to be something that was just going to stay with me and was going to become important for me. Excuse me. But this, to me, goes, the next step, and opened doors into this idea that music can be and is, in fact, all around us, and the natural world, and the intentionality of music, of what its intentions are, or our intent in creating music. All these ideas are explored, and lots of other ones on this beautiful piece of music. And the reissue is not expensive, so you don't have to be crazy like me and hunt down an original, unless you really fall in love with it like I did, and then you'll probably want to do that. But again, I think that this kind of the fifth linchpin in my evolution in listening to music, and what I think that music can be. And from these five are, dozens of more records that, as you kind of read and explore, that you'll want to venture into. But sometimes it's good to have, I think in life too, sometimes I felt like I haven't had enough guideposts in life that I wish that I had. It's nice to have someone point you in the right direction, but also that you have the freedom to be on your own at that point. Sometimes when people want to guide you, they put certain restrictions on what you're allowed to consider as music or not. And I've never responded well to someone trying to restrict my ideas, not just in music, but politics or whatever it might be. Anyway, I hope that might help. Those are 5 albums that for me were important, and maybe someone will look at it and say, hey, that's a guide into some areas of music that I want to listen to, that are free of kind of the rock and roll aspects, and can take me into some new directions, but at my own pace and at my own desire. I mentioned just a little while ago Ace Frehley. This may be an odd place to put an Ace Frehley tribute, Ace Frehley was one of maybe my first music hero, and it's a little bit heartbreaking to think of Ace as being gone. The music of Kiss, is always there. It's always there with me, but it's not something that I reach back for. It was an important part of my life when I was a young preteen, and I bought this record, cut out version. You know, there used to be I think it was called Woolworths, and there used to be this little store. My mom would go shopping, and she would give me money to buy a record. And there was a bin, the cutout bin, and you could find records for, I don't know how much they were. I want to say they were like $2 or $3. And being a Kiss fan, and I think at the time the rack was full of all these Kiss solo records because they didn't do so well. But Ace was always my man, so I had to have Ace, and I got the poster and everything. Anyway, we'll miss you, Ace, and the world is a worse place without you. Oh, and the other thing is, today was No King's Day, and amazing response throughout. I know here in the Detroit area, there were a number of communities that were doing sizable crowds of people that were showing up and speaking out and talking about true patriots who believe in the Constitution and the freedom of speech, and that this country is not a dictatorship, and that the rule of law is vital and important. And the people are waking up. And so thank you, everyone. Hope everyone is good and has a good week, and we'll see you next time.